With the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly billed for Tuesday, June 13th of this year, the stakes, well, they have heightened to a fever pitch for the contestants eyeing the plum offices of the presiding officers of the Senate and the House of Representatives. The offices contested are for those of President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, along with the deputies. Now, there has now been a frenzy of activities featured, heated debates, along with claims and counterclaims bordering on the capacities of the aspirants. Well, let's now have a conversation with development consultant Ojebode Ojomu, a former spokesman for the House of Representatives, and Eseme Eyiboh. They both will be setting the agenda for talking about the agenda setting for the 10th National Assembly. Welcome on Newsday. Thank you both for joining us this afternoon for this discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Thank you.
All right, Honorable Eseme Eyiboh, let me start off with you. I know we spoke with you sometime recently, but let's talk about this 10th National Assembly on setting the agenda for them. We know that there is a lot that they should be looking to prioritize as right now, but what sort of agenda should they be looking towards on resumption?
Well, I want to thank you very much for the question and also congratulate all of us that today is June 12th, Democracy Day. We deserve it. And having said that, you are aware that the current presidency under President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a new presidency, is not a continuing presidency. And the current National Assembly that will be inaugurated tomorrow is also a new National Assembly and not a continuing National Assembly. To that extent, to whom much is given, much is expected. There are so many things that has to be done and that must be done, and not only done, but being done well. For example, recently the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, signed into law the Act for the Enthronement and Empowerment of Electricity, where electricity generation, transmission, and distribution has now been centralized, where private persons, companies, and states can also participate in. That policy is not just enough as a policy. It requires a complementary role of the National Assembly to be able to effectively look at the various legislation, various laws that they will be able to amend or create to empower the executive to be able to make this policy effective. So what we are saying here, like the regime of the withdrawal of the subsidy, is not enough. Policy statement is not enough for the withdrawal. And of course, it's not all that by the time that the executive are able to have the inflow, from the withdrawal of the fuel subsidy, it is not enough for us to just talk about it. We expect that the president is talking about investment in infrastructure, investment in health, investment in education, and of course, transportation as it may be. And it requires a very strong National Assembly, a reform-minded National Assembly, a National Assembly which is people-centric. They believe in the people. They are conscious of what the expectations of the Nigerian people, what the expectations are. So they require a lot to be able to set up a legislative agenda backed up with the legal framework that will be able to enthrone, the derivatives of democracy that will, of course, spill out from a lot of these policy issues.
Now, Mr. Ojomu, I'd like to know what your expectations are from the 10th National Assembly. We know that a lot of analysts, they've called for a review of the 1999 Constitution or for even a new Constitution to be drawn, up. So I want to know if you see the 10th National Assembly, probably taking up this challenge.
Well, thank you for having me. I congratulate Nigerians for June 12th, Democracy Day. Setting agenda and what are the expectations? My expectations will just be the expectations of most Nigerians. The president has promised a renewed hope. And there is no doubt that when you take a sampling opinion among Nigerians, people are beginning to lose hope in the democracy. So I'm sure that the publicists and the strategies that enunciated the presidential agenda for a renewed hope have their reason. And in setting agenda for the National Assembly, I do tell people, is like the heart of government that pumps blood to every segment of your body. If you use it as a human representation, the president represents the head. The National Assembly serves like the heart that gets all the other functions, to other organs of the government to function. They approve budgets. They approve the agenda and policy of government when it comes to funding. So the expectations will be that you cannot also place that expectations in isolation, or who is going to be the captain of the ship of the nation, or who is going to be the captain of the flight that takes us to our dream, to have a nation that the pains of the people are lessened, education is attended to by government, health is attended to by government, general infrastructure is across the whole country. People are happy because the purpose of government is to let the government do what we cannot do for ourselves. So people have a lot of expectations that government will bring comfort. And for government to bring comfort, the National Assembly is very critical. We are governed by, our society is governed by law. You are talking about the National Constitution. When the leadership is well constituted, and you have a captain that can drive that agenda, then we are on a good stead. And corollary to that is that the type of leadership that you have is very instrumental to the fulfillment of the expectations of Nigerians. For me, I would rather join a plane that I'm sure that I have a trained captain, not a imagined captain, because no one goes on a flight where you are not sure that the captain is certified. For the National Assembly, without being partisan or call it bipartisan, the leadership will be best positioned if it's led by someone who is a learned, from the learned profession. And, you know, the party must have been guided by that decision to have sown the position the way they have done. And to a great extent, I feel that the party decision, you know, must have been well thought out, that when we are engaged in public communication as this, and our effort, like the media and the general people and all the people in leadership position, is to have a stable polity. The best way we can have a stable polity is for us to consider among ourselves who is the best material suitable for this position or the agenda we are setting. And I just want to encourage, we don't have a voting rights in tomorrow's decision, but for the 109 senators that have voting rights to take that decision, they should recognize that a lot of expectation is very high about the future of Nigeria. And if you are talking about the renewed hope, the president should be given the prerogative to assemble a team. There's a great distinction between a group and a team. Groups are permitted to have self-interest. A team works for a particular goal. And whoever is the team leader, like in the president, everybody is committed to the accomplishment of that set goals and targets. So if the constitution needs to be amended to make that job very easier, they have the free liberty to do that. But I strongly believe that leadership and the quality of leadership is very strategic. I've also learned in the course of my own leadership position and engagement in the course of public affairs that who leads a particular organization is very critical to the success of that organization. If the leadership is questionable, the result that will be attained will also be questionable. But if the leadership is trained and equipped and have substantial support base to accomplish that objective, it will be easier. And for us as Nigerians, we are going to have a very stable polity, and everybody can be happy thereof. The policies of government that is generated from the executive arms of government sent to the legislature without succumbing to the blackmail of rubber stamping. The mere fact that I agree with you does not make that I'm docile. And I've seen the procedure of the previous parliament. There's no time there is no argument. People debate, but when we debate, we don't lose the objective while we are debating. The goal that we have in mind must be accomplished. So that does not amount to rubber stamping. So a lot of things is upside down in our polity, but at least we have an opportunity to straighten it out in this unfolding new era that we have in Nigeria. I don't know whether you are satisfied. And I need to make a point of correction. It's Eyiboh that is spokesperson for the House of Representatives.
Former spokesperson.
Former spokesperson. I've been spokesperson for ruling party in this country. But today, I'm here as a public affairs analyst. Ojebode Ojomu is my name. Thank you.
All right, correction taken. Thank you so much. Let's go back to Honorable Eyiboh. Speaking about representation, equality, balance, those have been a lot of discussion. Those have been a lot of the crux of the discussions of who will come out as Senate President. What do you think about these two scenarios, with the three top Southerners occupying the three top seats in the judiciary, the presidency, and the legislature? And I'm talking about our just sworn-in President Tinubu, the CGN Ariwola, and the judiciary. And if some people would have it go God's will, Akpabio in the legislative. There's also the discussion about three Muslims occupying those three biggest seats in the country. Now, this is if Abdulaziz Yari wins the ticket on the other side. What do you make of both of these scenarios and the discussion about trying to get equal representation for all parts of the country?
Well, when you talk about, I've heard people talking about the issue of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, the President, and if Akpabio emerges, the Senate President, all coming from the South. You could remember that there was a time in this country, in fact, in the immediate past, that the Chief Justice of Nigeria is the issue of career position. But there was a time that the President of the Senate, the President of the Federal Republic, and the Chief Justice of Nigeria have consistently been from the North. There was a time like that. So the issue of now wanting to now wipe the sentiment of the Chief Justice of Nigeria being from the South, along with the President and if Akpabio, by God's grace, emerges the Senate President, all coming from the South, that is of course, the argument falls flat on its face. Then the other issue of religion, if you have the the President of the Republic, you have the Vice President of the Republic, you also have, God forbid, you have a Muslim too as a Senate President, and you also have a Muslim as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Of course, you now know that the sensibilities of this country and the strength in our diversities have been breached, because we need to be very sensitive to our diversities. And it's because of that sensitivity to our diversities that the President of the Republic, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been able to propose and request that the Akpabio should be supported. So Akpabio's candidature is not a function of self-pity, or it is not a way of trying to wipe the sentiment of partisanship. But it is a desire, it is a drive, it is a consciousness to be able to galvanize the strength in our diversities, to make sure that there is inclusiveness, to make sure that we build consensus, to make sure that everybody, every section and every segment of this country enjoys the benefit of governance. And I must also bring this to the table. You know, the chairman of the chairman of Constitution Amendment Committee in the House of Representatives is the Deputy Speaker. The chairman of the Constitution Amendment Committee in the Senate is the Deputy Senate President. And to that extent, any amendment of the Constitution, because I've also heard a couple of sentiments that Akpabio's presidency will be able to throw up the issue of resource control. It cannot sit as a person. The President of the Senate cannot sit as a person and now decide on the amendment of the Constitution. So I give it the benefit of the doubt to those people who are speculating that level of rants, that they may not understand how the legislature works. The Deputy Senate President is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendment. And before a major amendment or alteration to our Constitution is being made, the House will go through the concurrent of the House of Reps and the Senate. And that is not the end of it. It will also go through the state houses of assembly. That is how the process goes. And so for people to now sit back and now begin to bring us such a sentiment, these are people who are in the black corridor, mercantilist politicians who are not interested in the growth of this country. They want it to be business as usual. But as we speak today, I can tell you that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the first Nigerian president who has been in the forefront to galvanize, to coordinate, an architect of the preservation of the democracy, the enthronement of our democracy. He is the first person today to benefit from that struggle. So he understands the import of democracy and the benefit of this. Because of his understanding of the importance of democracy, first and foremost, he has recognized the issues of our diversities, issues of our ethnicities, issues of religious sentiment, and all of that. And so Akpabio is a product of various strengths, a product of diversity, a product of productivity, a product of pedigree, a product of strong institution, a product of a man who are at all time Asiwaju in the executive, and you have Akpabio-led National Assembly. We are going to talk about a regime of progressive politics, a regime where prosperity will not only be preached, prosperity will be effected, and it will reflect in the generality of our people. Growth and opportunities will emerge. So I am saying, and clearly so, that it is very important that the senators-elect should be able to now look at where we are coming from as a nation and where we are heading to. But the anniversary of today's Democracy Day, and of course the watershed in June 12th, should be able to prevail on them to step out and collaborate the proposal of Mr. President that Akpabio should be given opportunity to be the president of the Senate. And take note, I begin to hear people talk about rubber stamping. There is no state in this federation from 1999 till date that the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Speaker of the State House of Assembly, or the Deputy Speaker of any State House of Assembly, the governor must have input on who emerges as either the Speaker or Deputy Speaker of the State House of Assembly. So in the national here, it cannot be different. It doesn't amount to imposition. It doesn't amount to issue of rubber stamping. It amounts to creating a synergy, building a consensus, team building, to be able to give back to Nigerian people. Because there are a lot of measures, policy measures that the Asiwaju government is proposing and of course undertaking. Like the issue of, presently some of us hold the opinion that Nigeria has no economy. What we have is a market. Now, the financial health of this country and the financial architecture, even our balance sheet is not as a matter of fact balanced. So with present step he's taking, the issue of the electricity, the issue of the subsidy withdrawal, if you want to put all this together, you would know that is a right position to now be able to jumpstart an economy. But that is not going to be possible if we don't have strong institutions like National Assembly and having in its leadership men and women who have the capacity and the ability to be able to make this productive. And I think Akpabio and Jibrin Barao is most appealing. And I pray and also plead that senators-elect, I'm not campaigning, should be able to see it from this prism. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Ojomu, earlier you talked about zoning, and that you feel that the leadership of the Senate or the 10th National Assembly should be learned. But some analysts believe that the APC is playing what has been called pacification politics after following the fallout, that the controversy that followed the Muslim ticket. And of course, I'm sure you're aware of what the Vice President, Kashim Shettima said, that the worst and incompetent Southern Christian, is better than a Northern puritanical Muslim, as a leadership, to form part of the leadership of the National Assembly. But I'm wondering, why the legislature should be used to correct the mistake in quotes, of the executive? What happens to separation of powers?
Well, I will respond as this. There are a lot of things we are missing out. There is only one ship of the nation, and there is only one government. That government is the agent of states called the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The sovereignty lies with the people. The sovereignty of the people is exercised by that government, and the leadership of that government remains the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Given that as it may, every other thing that we follow, it takes responsibility as force. So there are three tiers of governments. There is no three governments. We only have three tiers of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. It's still one government, and the head of that government is the president. That is why you have the president as number one, the vice president as number two, and the senate president as number three. For me to address your question frontally, there is only one government, and if the APC leadership take a position to suggest that they are not taking Nigeria for granted, then they should be commended. What do I mean by that? For scholars in conflict studies, that's what we call early warning signal. When ex-governor Rufai of Kaduna fired the first salvo about all this, try to bring religion into politics. Really, in Africa, religion is a weapon to reach out to the heart of the masses. But what Governor Rufai fired as a salvo to me is what we call early warning signal. What will happen if the leadership of the National Assembly do not come in the way that the leadership of APC try to correct whatever it perceives as wrong? There's nothing wrong about that, and it is also correct and valid. It's even double advantage, like you pointed out, that the material they are putting forward for that position is learned. There's a lot of advantage if you bring a matter to me that has to do with public relations, advertising, conflict studies. The way I'm going to respond to it is not going to be the way a medical doctor is going to respond to it. And if you bring a medical issue to me, the way I'm going to respond to you is not the way the doctor will respond to you. So if you have in the leadership, like you say, learned, if you have in the leadership of the National Assembly a learned person, it puts the country at an advantage. Because what is the purpose of the National Assembly? To make laws. It's not as if that everybody that have been Senate president before have been lawyers or whatever. But if this time, you see, I tell people in politics, it's not about what is right and about what is wrong. It is about expediency. And I've advocated this in one particular forum when there was a serious conflict, and it makes a lot of way. Today is June 12th. MKO Abiola was right to have asked for his mandate. But under a military junta, it was not expedient to do so. I also say that when Ojukwu led the Eyibohs in self-determination to want to create Biafra, they have the right to ask for self-determination, but it was not expedient to do so. So what is expedient in these circumstances? What is expedient for Nigeria if the objective of the APC is to create a stable polity, is to correct the Muslim ticket and try not to confirm that what Rufai has said, that the Christian in the north are already being agitated, is confirmed. And when such scenario happen, for those who understand national conflict, it's a basis for national conflict. Because in this country, people respect their religion so much, and the Constitution recognizes that this is not a single religion state. So we must recognize that our diversity as realistic, and practically whoever is in leadership position to respond to it accordingly. So if the APC leadership have responded in that direction, anyone in that party should respect that thing. And I tell people, you see, when the party gave you the ticket to be senator or to be governor, they were right. And they held some other people's hand backward for you to have your way. Now that the party now say, the same party, say this is the direction we want to go. No, they are not right. Because you have further interest. For me, when we are engaged in public communication as this, I want to be persuasive. I don't want to run the verbal diarrhea against anybody because everybody has liberty to do what he believes in. But we need to condition our mind, especially for the senators who will decide the future of this country tomorrow. That this country is diverse. We have diversity. And that diversity must be represented in the leadership. And that is why the Constitution also provided for zoning. So all these things are not taken for granted. The Northwest, where His Excellency, with due respect, former Governor Yari came from, we just have a president that has spent 8 years with us, in the country, and heaven did not fall. People have their reservation and objection. It's not every time you can have it your own way. So we must have the country as a greater, when your personal interests come in conflict with a collective interest, you should let your personal interests, be submerged by that collective interest. And I think if Nigerians have given APC majority votes, then it presupposes that they believe that they can do all things right in their best interest. And one of the ways to do everything right in their best interest is to let the leadership of the National Assembly reflect that a chunk of the member of Nigerian society can have a feel that they are really represented in this government. And that's why I said that the early warning signal we have gotten from the ex-governor should not be taken for granted. And the leadership of APC need to be commended trying to correct what they have perceived as a wrong to Nigerians. Thank you.
All right. Well, Mr. Ojomu and Honorable Eyiboh, we want to thank you both for coming and spending your time discussing this subject with us.